Welcome to the future, you guys. A little bit different setup today. I'm rocking a new mic. Let's see how that goes. You guys will notice it's a lot more quiet today because we've killed the mics in the other room. But let's get to it. I know you guys don't want us to ramble on about stuff. Today we're going to be talking about nightmare clients. Dun, dun, dun. And in case you couldn't read it, there it is, nightmare clients. And I'm fortunate enough to have Henry Kaminski Jr. join us today. He is his own brand consultant. He's a professional. He's been working for a number of years. You guys can look him up. He's at The Brand Doctor. Henry and I know each other. I've been coaching him for the past few months, and it's been great. And he's bringing up pain points that I'm hearing that I think you guys will want to hear. He's been brave enough to agree to come on the show and share these things in a super transparent way so that we all can learn together. And I love it when professional people who have a lot of experience, come on our show and share their life experiences in an effort to share the knowledge with the community. And I also want to just give a quick shout out to Erica, Mark, and a new member joining our team, Ricky. Their mics are muted right now, but you can see him. He's the good-looking guy with a beard. That's who he is. And he'll be monitoring your comments on Facebook and on YouTube. But you know what? Let's keep it real. Let's keep it raw. Roll the titles, Erica, please. Woo, we're back. Look at this. Oh my God, Henry, I didn't realize we're all going to wear white. I better, hold on. Let me get my cap on so you guys can tell the difference between Henry and I. He's my white brother from another mother. There we are. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Now, you guys can immediately tell Henry is a ball of energy. You're from Jersey, is that right?
That's correct.
And we're here in your home office. I know you have a pretty sweet setup, and he's no newbie to this game himself. He's live streaming. He's producing content all the time. You guys definitely look him up on Instagram. He's got more followers than me, and I'm a little jealous of that. I'm just going to put it right out there. But you're very consistent with your content. You look good. You're always shot like against an expensive car on a yacht in your suit and everything that you got going on, living the baller lifestyle. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about nightmare clients. And you've been, I guess, you've had your fair share of really bad clients.
Yeah. Before we get started, Chris, I got a little surprise. For
Should I be nervous?
So I know how you like to rock the cap.
Oh, you can't do the cap too.
So I'm going to rock the cap. And
you have some glasses?
And my chief marketing officer is going to rock his.
All right, we're going to try to do this. It's a family show, you guys. Today, truly, it is a family show. My son is too busy.
My wife got us these hats for Father's Day, and I said, it's the little things in life that make it special. So when I woke up, he comes in with this hat, and then she was like, well, here's yours. And I was
great.
I can't. It was awesome. So,
all right.
Everybody meet little Dante, and now I got to get to work.
All right. See you later, Dante. Welcome to the show. All right.
I figured you would like that. So yeah. Nightmare clients, right?
Yeah, let's start. So I want to set up the context for how we're going to talk about this today. You've shared with me a number of scenarios that you've been in, and I think like all creative people, we desire to make people happy. We want people to like us and all those kinds of things. And when they don't, we get all bent out of shape. We start questioning ourselves. We get really insecure. Like, was I doing something right? Or how can I salvage this relationship? And we get into this state where I think Jose refers to as the beaten Chihuahua syndrome, where the Chihuahua has been neglected and beaten so many times. Now he'll just do anything that the master wants. We definitely need to get out of that mindset. So with that, I'm thinking that this is more conversational, that it's not so formal like client and consultant kind of thing. It's two guys sitting at a coffee bar, having a beverage, and then just talking about business stuff, talking shop. So why don't you set up the first thing that you want to know or talk more about, and then I'll do my best to respond to that. The show is yours, my friend.
Awesome. Chris, I appreciate you having me on the show, and it's a pleasure to be here. The end of last year was very, very trying for me. Mm-hmm. I was trying to get my processes and systems in place to really run a seamless and streamlined business. And I still was working out a lot of the kinks. So I will say, before I start pointing fingers and talking about nightmare clients, sometimes, I want to share with the audience, sometimes you got to look in the mirror and say, was it all their fault? Or was it really them that created this? And so what I realized when I go through these experiences and life lessons and business lessons, I always sit down at the end of the day and say, what can I take away from this? What can I learn from this? How can I improve the practice because of this situation, because of this lesson? And what I realized was it really wasn't the client per se, but things did get out of hand. But when I looked at it, it was my processes and systems. There were some leaks, there were some cracks, there were some bottlenecks. And now I was able to perfect them based on, so I always try to look at the good, I always try to look at the good in the situation. But here's what happened. As a result, everything spiraled out of control. So client comes on board. He's been following me on Instagram for quite some time. I get a lot of business from my Instagram account. That's my platform that I'm most vocal on and most present on. And so he was a follower and a fan for a long time. And we had various conversations, and I've had him on my podcast, and we had a great relationship.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it was almost like, I don't want to say a wolf in sheep's clothing, but that's what comes to mind, right? There was a lot of interesting backstory that I never was aware of because I was present with him every time we interacted. So eventually he comes and says, listen, I want you to help me with my brand development, my brand identity. You do a lot of personal branding work. I want you to do my website. I want you to help me out. So I said, all right. And so I thought I was, qualifying and positioning myself properly. And so I bring him on board, and something weird happened. The minute I got on my first strategy call with him after he paid me, I felt there was a different dynamic in the relationship. It was almost like I was talking to a different person. And I don't know where that came from or what had happened just because of a transaction, but something was different. There was now I'm the boss. Now you're going to listen to me. And prior to that, I didn't know what I know now in regards to pre-framing. And this is a lot. I have to give you a lot of credit here. This is all the consulting that you've done with me for the past 6 months, one-on-one. This is something that you've sort of embedded in me now, but I was not clear up front of the boundaries of the setup on how I actually work. And I wasn't clear with that. So when he came in, he was like, I'm the boss now. Right. And I remember that day, like it was yesterday, I started to get scared. I'm not going to lie. I started to get scared. Like I was almost afraid of him. And I'm not afraid to be transparent here. I'm going to keep it real, and I'm going to keep it.
I appreciate that.
So I was almost like afraid of him. And I remember like every time I would get an email, I would like, I would shake. Every time I would get a correspondence from him or a phone call, I would be like, and people know me. That the people that do know me, they say, really, dude? Like, you don't come across as a guy that's easily shaken. Right. You don't come across as a guy that's easily wound up. But for whatever reason, this dude got under me. And so we continue on the project. So now I'm digging, and I'm digging my hole, and I'm digging my hole. And finally, we present the first concept to him for his website, and he hated it. Like, it was like, this is amateur. I could have done this myself. What are you like? This is what I paid you for. I mean, belittling and demeaning and just like ripping the confidence like right out of me. And I remember walking away from that call going, like, I really questioned myself. Like, I've been doing this for a decade. Am I losing my mojo here? Like, am I real? Am I a hack? Like, should I be doing? And all of these, so the confidence started to get drained from me. And then I started to really dive into your content at that time. And I remember seeing a few videos where you were saying, well, sometimes you just got to cut it. And what happened was I cut it the wrong way. So what happened was, after he started, he came at me a second time, and the hothead Italian Spanish blood came out, and I like went at him, like with teeth salivating, like I went at him, and I was like, you know, it would have been.
Tell me how you went at it.
Well, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to take this shit no more. You talk to me like I'm some peasant. I said, I think this relationship is done. This job is over. So as of today, we are no longer working on any of your work, and you're done. You're screwed. Like you're out. Like, I'm not tolerating this anymore. Right. And so I blocked him from everything. I blocked him from all my social media platforms because there was a Skype message that came through that said something along the lines like, you don't know who you're effing with. And there was like some threats and stuff. So I was like, all right, you know, I have a little guy at home. Like I gotta take care of myself here. So I blocked him from everything. And what happened was he took that as like I stole from him. He took it as like I wasn't going to give him his money back or anything of that sort. And he went on a smear campaign. And what happened was, you know how, you know, there's these bots that leave reviews, like you could use them as like positive reviews on Amazon and Facebook, where it's a botted message. And they just come into your accounts and they could leave positive messages or negative messages. And what I woke up one morning and I saw like 150 one-star reviews on my Facebook page and like all these one-line answers. And it was like broken English. Like you could tell I never done, like majority of them I never even did business with. And that was number one. Then number two, I started getting tagged in all these posts saying that I was a fraud and I was a hack and I was stealing, and there's going to be what do you call those lawsuits when like 15 people come at once?
Class action lawsuit.
Yeah,
I should know that term, but yes.
So I started like panicking, and so thank God my wife is like a really good writer, and so I went to her and I said, like, how can I articulate a response? Because I want to make sure that I stay professional. I want to make sure that I save face. I want to make sure that, you know, I handle the situation and not hide from it, because that's the one thing that I think a lot of my audience was going to look at was, how do I handle a situation like this? Because this got really, really out of hand. And then what happened was there was a couple other disgruntled people that maybe never said anything to me, but saw this and saw that as a way of coming on board and sort of vocalizing their what, you know, their unhappiness, right? And so now now I'm really starting to figure out, now how do I handle this? So long story short, I did the right thing. I refunded him 100% of his money. I looked at the other client that was disgruntled, and I said, you will get a 100% refund as well, just for showing up, right? Problem with that was it was probably over $20,000. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that set my whole world into a tailspin. Yeah. And I had to figure out where that money, well, I had the money, but what happened was business got slow and I couldn't recoup that as quickly as I thought. So there was bills, it was end of the year, you know, the holidays were around, and I completely drove myself into the ground and the business. And so now I don't have my confidence anymore. I have somebody who has ran a smear campaign on me, and I have a ripoff report written about me. But the issue with that was when I read it, it wasn't the client's name and I couldn't understand. It was somebody else's name. And I realized that I never did business with someone under that name. And then I read it and I was like, dude, look at all these typos and grammatical errors. And like, this doesn't even look like it was written like by anyone of a professional manner. And I was like, well, I'm not going to spend too much time on that, because if I focus on this, it's going to take away from the energies that I could be putting out on the positive tip. Right. So I left it alone, but I went a couple of months, Chris, and I couldn't get back on my feet. And I realized that like, I need to figure something out here, because had I not done this, I think my career could have been over. So people know me, and because I show up on social media every single day on multiple platforms, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, and I'm out there just giving it my all. And I've made a choice to do that. I'm not afraid to talk about my weaknesses. I'm not afraid to talk about some of the some of the things that happened to me in the past that aren't so great. And I just put myself out there in a raw, uncut way every single day. And so what happened was, when this campaign hit social media, I personally didn't have to do much other than to write that statement of response. What happened throughout the day was I removed myself from social media completely, because I didn't want any comments to sort of hit a nerve and for me to come at, and for me to say something just out of emotion and passion and maybe say the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. So I completely removed myself from social media. And at the end of the day, I went back and I read. And my community, my fans, the people that watch me every day, came to my defense. And they were my voice. I didn't say anything. And it was crazy. There was hundreds of comments. And I said to myself, and I was like in tears at the end of the day. I remember it was like it was yesterday, and I looked at my wife, and my wife said, see, you're not this person that you think you are right now because somebody attacked you, right? Look at the people that came to bat for you and spoke highly of you. And that's why I want to just say brand reputation is everything. Because if you don't have that reputation built, if you don't have the credibility built, if you don't have those things, something like that could come along, blindside you, and just wipe your entire career out. So 100%. How did I get myself back on my feet? Well, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of work with you. It took a lot of work with my other coach, who I work with from a mindset level. And they eventually got me back on my feet. And I realized what I was doing. And this is coming from you, Chris. You said you're looking for external validation. And that's not a good place to look. And you're looking for that validation in all the wrong places. And then I had given you some context of what happened recently. And you said, look at the wife you have. Look at the son you have. Look at the father you have. Look at the business you built from nothing. You've been in the game 10 and a half years. So you started bringing in all these things that like were clearly right in front of my face, but I was blinded by it because I was so focused on that negative energy that was being directed at me like the Death Star. Right. And it took me a few months to get back on my feet. And once I got back on my feet and remembered who I was as a person, as a professional, as a father, as a service provider, I did record numbers in 60 days that I never saw in my life. And I did it by myself. I shouldn't say myself. I mean, I have a team of 16 people that back me and help me and work with me on a daily basis to serve my clients at the level that I do. But I realized that one nightmare client can knock you off center and potentially wipe out your entire professional career if you let it. And so I came to you, Chris, asking, so this is the question I have for you today, Chris, is it took me 4.5 months, close to 5 months, almost a half a year, Chris, for me to get back on my feet and to really do the numbers that I'm used to doing. And so how do I compress time and have it not take, so God forbid it happens again, but business is business. And we all know that it's never a smooth ride. You never know. There could be a situation like this again, but I will do everything in my will to not have it escalate to this level. Right. But what if there's a bunch of little things that are happening like at the same time that compile into something of this magnitude? How do I compress the time so it doesn't take me another 5 months to get over and lose out on all of that potential business and that opportunity to help others that need my service? Because I look at those 5 months going, that's 5 months of, I could have been out there helping dozens, if not hundreds of more people, but I wasn't because I was afraid. I was scared. My confidence level was at an all-time low. Mm-hmm. And so I missed out on that, I feel, and I don't want that to happen again.
Yeah. Okay, there's a lot of stuff to unpack here. So before I answer any questions that you have, I want to help our audience process the story that you just said, and also not to be able to skip over any learning opportunities. So first of all, I just want to commend you for sharing so openly and so transparently. To me, true confidence comes from people who can not only recognize their strengths, that's easy to do, but also say, I know where I'm weak and I'm okay with that. And that's truly like where the confidence comes from, because otherwise you're busy kind of trying to hide over the fact that these things have happened to you and you have these emotions. Now, if you guys don't know Henry, obviously if you're tuning in and you don't know his brand, he can come across as this pit bull. He's a smaller, compact, stout guy, and he dresses a certain way, and he's got this like really this voice. I don't know how you describe it. It's definitely a Jersey voice. There's a power to it that you think this guy's like pumping iron in the other room and nothing impacts him. And it's very interesting at the beginning of the show, before we start anything, the first thing you do is you pull your son and you put him on your lap. That there's a definite vulnerable side to you, and that I can even tell in sharing the story, you have to relive some really hurtful emotions, and I can see it. Like, we're riding that line right now, right? Like, I don't want to go too deep and have you just fully break down on camera. We have an Oprah moment right here, right? Without the prizes,
because the show ain't over yet.
Yeah, the show's not over, so we put an asterisk on that. So here's the thing: I want to begin what I'm about to say in the breakdown by bringing up this African proverb. The African proverb says this. Erica, the African proverb says this: when there is no enemy within, the enemies outside cannot hurt you. Right? You understand what that means, right? So here we are, we're creative people. We, like all human beings, desire to be loved, to be appreciated, to be understood. And some people understand this about others, and they might not even identify you as being a creative person, but just as a person who has some vulnerabilities. And that's what makes you a wonderful creative artist, an actor, whatever. And they exploit that in you. And I've seen it done to me and done to others, but I recognize it right when it happens, and I shut it down. And I'm going to tell you how to do that. Okay, so we said before, if you're a manager, if you're an art director, if you're a client, and you ever want to hurt a creative being, the worst thing that you can say to them is, I'm not impressed by your work. I'm not impressed. I'm underwhelmed. And that'll put you into a tailspin, and that's what happened. And from that moment forward, this house that you think you've built, like in the Three Little Pigs, that you think you've built out of masonry and bricks and concrete, that it's really strong, actually was just a house of straw, because the foundation on which it was built upon still depends too much on external validation. I want to talk about that. Okay, so we're going to get a little deep for some of you guys here, and just stay with me here. A lot of us are looking for others to tell us that the work is okay. And how do I know this? Because Thousands of you guys email me all the time. Is my work okay? Is my work okay? What do you think? Well, who am I? I'm just some Yahoo on the internet. I do have a point of view in the world, but why does what I say matter to you? And why does what your teacher says matter to you? Why do you even care what your parents think? Because they know nothing about design or development or photography or videography. What do they know? So what are we doing? We're looking for this external compass, and it's something that is a meaningless pursuit, and you'll follow this for the rest of your life. Why would you take your happiness, your confidence, and give somebody else the control box? Why would you even do that? So in my robot logic mind, I say, you know what? The person who needs control, that is me. I need to go into a presentation knowing that my design is good or not good. I need to know if my team did a good job or not, and I'm not going to depend on anybody else to tell me that. And sometimes, I'm ashamed to admit, sometimes we're stretched thin and we don't have enough time. And the team doesn't quite hit it, yet there's a deadline and I have to present work that I personally don't believe in. Right. So what I do is, in a situation like that, there's two things that you can do. The first path is the one I recommend the most, which is to cancel the meeting. A lot of people feel compelled because we've given the client our word and we're worried about how they perceive our professionalism by missing a deadline. So we go through with it and we present work that we know is not good enough. It's not up to our standards. What I would recommend is cancel the meeting. You will have more respect and more to gain by just pushing the meeting. And here's how you would phrase it. We've been working nonstop on this work. It's not meeting my standards. I hate to do this, but I think it will be a disservice to you to present work that we don't fully believe in. Give me another 24 hours or 48 hours, whatever it is that you need, so I can get this thing right. And you will gain more respect, and more importantly, you won't destroy your reputation, and you won't get the client to start to think, I think I made a bad decision. I think these guys and gals don't know what they're doing. If that starts to happen, the relationship starts to fall apart immediately. Because imagine a designer that you think is a hotshot, that you bring into the studio, that you give them a logo to work on. 3 days later, they come back with super amateurish work. It is hard to rebuild that trust. Some say it's impossible, hence the expression, you only get one chance to make a first impression. So that's what I would recommend, to punt, to delay the meeting, to be fully honest and tell them why, to accept full responsibility for it, don't make any excuses, and accept that. Now, let's say it's too late. There's no way you can move it. The person's leaving the country, they're an important executive, there's no way. What I would begin when I present the work is to say, I'm presenting work to you today, but it needs more effort from us. Usually I like to walk into these meetings and know that we've hit it, and I'm not sure we've hit it, so I want to look at this as a working meeting. Feel free to tell us whatever it is you think, because I know these 3 things need to be resolved. The design isn't worked out, the concept isn't clear, and the messaging isn't on point yet. If there's anything else you want to add to that, please let me know. So you see the level of self-awareness that I'm bringing to it. I know that the work isn't good. I'm going to tell you where it's not good so that the client isn't sitting there thinking, I wonder if Chris knows this sucks. I wonder if he knows that the messaging is sloppy and lazy. And that's how I would present. What happens most of the time is we go into these meetings, sadly, and we have no clue if the work is good, if it's bad. We just don't even know. So we're waiting for somebody to tell us if it's good or not. That's a dangerous position to be in. So in this meeting, and this is more rhetorical because I don't think you need to answer it if you don't want to. When you presented work to this gentleman who proceeded to rip you a new a-hole, so you're a little butthurt after that, right? Did you know that it wasn't up to your standards?
1,000%.
Okay, so you knew that, and that's why you even open it up even more. That means that now you are priming yourself to take a beating and not to be able to do anything. And you know it's going to hurt, and you brace for impact, and that's a rough thing. So if we could replay the tape, and this is how Henry and everybody else that's in this situation that's watching this right now, you're going to tell yourself, you're going to make a promise to yourself, do not present work you don't believe in. And when you believe in your work, you go and present it. And no matter what they say, you are Teflon. Nothing sticks to you. And there's a difference in knowing that the work is good and also knowing that the work didn't solve the client's problem. Those are two different things. Sometimes I know the work is good, but I also know that the client has a right to say it's not a good fit for them, which is no reflection on myself nor the work. And I've told this story before, and I don't assume everybody's watched all 600 videos that we've made. I'm going to tell you a little story. I had an executive producer, and we, for the past 20 years, have worked in the motion industry, and it requires us to pitch work. So a lot of how we validate ourselves to some is whether or not we win the job, if the clients like us or not. And so I made it the duty of my executive producer, who would oftentimes come back and complain to me that the team was not doing good work after we weren't awarded the job. So I said, look, what is your responsibility here as the executive producer? Is just to wait and complain? Is that the kind of team you want to build, where there's a separation between us and you and the client? Or are you part of the team? He's like, of course, I'm part of the team. So he said, from here on out, you don't go into meeting, we do not present, you cancel the meeting if you don't feel that the work is good. So there's a big important pitch. It's for some giant multi-billion-dollar brand. And the team works on the pitch. And we're all looking at it. We all think it looks good. I asked him, does it look good? He's like, yeah. So we go to present. And of course, sometimes, I'm not saying all, there's a couple of individuals within the agency world where I think they get joy from torturing creatives. And so they're like, this is not good. And then he, the executive producer that works for us on our team, goes into a tailspin. He's like, the team is not good. I think we've lost our magic or our mojo, whatever it is. And he said, wait. Did you know this before we had the meeting? He said, no. Did you think the work was good or not? So he knew this was a trap. Because I told him explicitly, you do not have a meeting unless you believe the work is good. So our job is to present strong, and whatever happens after that, we don't second guess if we do good work or not. So of course he had to say, yes, the work was good. Then I told him, this is the end of the conversation. I suggest you come to peace with the work is good, and that client is wrong. So you need to understand that. This is what I mean about the internal compass. You need to know if the work is good or not. Now, some people are watching and saying, Chris, I don't know if it's good or not. So this is why you have to get an education. You have to learn the principles of design, of animation, of best practices. You have to be brought under the wing of somebody who's going to teach you not to be critical about the work, but to teach you how they process things. And this is why, for many years, one of the show segments was the process. We need to learn that. We need to learn how other people we admire look at the world and the decisions that they make in determining if work is good or not and how to improve it. What do I mean by that? Well, one of the tips I give designers all the time is if they're making a Photoshop frame for me and it's not working and they know it's not working, rather than come to me and say, Chris, what's not working? And be an order taker and like, oh yeah, okay, make that bigger, make that smaller, more red, more blue. I just say to them, turn off every single layer in your comp. And sometimes the Photoshop comps can have hundreds of layers. And I say, start from the bottom. Turn on one layer at a time. When you turn on a layer and the thing looks terrible, you have a problem. So it's like if you took every ingredient that you have in the kitchen pantry and you dumped it and made some kind of hobo stew and it tastes like butt, which it probably will, you have to strip down the ingredients again. And you're going to find out there's probably a bad and expired can of tomatoes that you put into it and that spoiled it. And you have to be able to identify that. And if you do that repeatedly over time, you are training yourself. You are learning how to art direct yourself. And that's one of the most valuable skills that you can have, to look at your own work and to evaluate what is wrong. And there's a whole class I could teach about that, but we're not here to do that. So the way that we prevent this situation from never, ever happening again, Henry, is first of all, we need to know who we are. And true confidence is not something that comes from other people. It comes from within. Okay, so you need to know, am I good or not? Am I at the level in which I need to be as a branding person, as a strategist, as a communicator, as a facilitator? And chances are, if we're being totally honest with ourselves, there's room for improvement in many categories. You, me, and everybody listening to this. So start working on those skills to acquire that. But traditionally, what I would suggest is you anchor yourself and your self-belief around one key strength. And that could be you're a great communicator, or you're great at writing copy or concepts, or you're really good at finding out like just the right number of shapes and items to make a really hot mark and build your house on that foundation. So you can then go into the meeting and say, I admit I'm not great at this, but this is where my core strength is. This is my core competency. So whatever you want to say about everything else, I can hear lots of it. But I know this part, I'm really good at it. I'm not saying I'm never wrong, but that's what the foundation I'm building it on. And that's really important. And now many people who teach confidence tell you that repetition and focus is what builds confidence. If you're not good at kicking a ball, you kick that ball 10,000 times, you become pretty good at kicking the ball. So it's just drilling, right? So there's a lot of people who get distracted in this kind of ADD culture that we live in, where we're being pulled 100 different directions. We're on Snapchat, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter at the same time. This is where the focus needs to come into play. This is where you have to be a deep diver. You have to be like that dolphin. You have to go really deep. That's where expertise comes from. And that's why I'm such a nut when it comes to so many different things. I want to know as much as I can about a thing until I go as deep as I can, and then I'm done and I move on to the next thing. Whereas then other people are being very superficial, of the surface. They just glide along the surface and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And so it is very easy to upset that house. A little breeze changes and it's all broken down. So what we want to do is we want to build that core up from within us to know who we are, what we're good at, to also know what our weaknesses are, and to be totally okay with that. Love your strengths, love your weaknesses. Okay, here's where the potential is, where the relationship started to devolve. This person was a fan of yours. They followed you around for a long time before they decided to bite. So this tells me this person is very careful and potentially very indecisive. Right? It's like that. You're like fishing for 10 days before that fish even comes to nibble. It's very cautious. Okay. And we have to kind of know that just because somebody comes to us through our social media channels doesn't make them a qualified person to work with us. And we also have to remember that everybody that calls us up and wants to work with us, there are 3 possible outcomes. We need to remember this because most of you think there's only one possible outcome. And if I were to ask you guys right now that are watching this, what is the outcome that you all think must happen? Go ahead and type that in the comments, guys. I'll give you 2 seconds. Okay, now most creative people, when a client comes calling, they think the only outcome is you will hire me. So if the circumstances aren't right, if the budget isn't right, if the project specs are not right, if the timing isn't right, you still think you must make this thing happen because the outcome must be you must hire me. Because the opposite is what we're afraid of. We're afraid that nobody else will call us. We're afraid if we don't do this, somebody else will do it and we'll never get this opportunity again. But we need to realize what the other 2 options are. The other 2 options are they could hire somebody else, or in many cases, they could do nothing. When you come to peace with this and you realize that the 3 possible outcomes are they could hire you, they could hire someone else, or they could do nothing, it changes your energy, changes your dynamic. You're not put into this place of pressure selling or accepting terms or working with people that your gut tells you you should not be working with. So we need to be able to tune into that voice, the frequency, whatever it is that you want to call it, so that we're paying attention to it, so that when you get those vibes, it is not being drowned out by the voice that says, we need this job, we have to get this job, the outcome must be to close this job. This is the beginning of you coming into a conversation, being objective, being neutral and unbiased. And this is the key to being seen as an expert by other people. So when a client calls me, I don't automatically assume they're going to work with me. I actually think the opposite. I have to sit there and think, I don't know if you're a good fit for me. I know there are a lot of people out there. I'm not for everybody. Here's how I like to work. So this is where you and I started talking about training you to try to kill the engagement, to try to let people know how you like to work, So they're also aware of how you like to work, so they can make an informed decision as well. So this is like a very short-term relationship. I'm not going to call it marriage because it's not that definite, right? It's not infinite. The timeline in which we spend together isn't forever. It's a finite engagement. But we're going to spend a lot of time with each other. It's probably a good idea for us to get to know each other and how we like to work. So rather than ask them how they like to work, you should just tell them up front. Here's who I have great relationships with where we've had a lot of success. That A, they're busy, they're entrepreneurial, they have lots of things to do, and they like to hire the best people and then step out of the way. That's where I get the best results. If you're the person who has a lot of free time and you want to partner with somebody so you can fulfill that wish fantasy that you have of being an art director or designer, and you want to be very hands-on and you're very indecisive, I'm probably not the person that you want to work with. We'll wind up doing this thing and you'll get frustrated, I'll get frustrated, and we'll spend a lot of time and it just won't be productive. So let's not do that to each other, okay? See, so when I have that mindset that I'm trying to either help you or at least be neutral, my conversation, my mindset is very different. So I don't care if you shoot weddings, like in videos, if you make a logo for somebody, if you build websites, you have to have the same mindset. There are many options in which the clients can choose, one of which is just working with you. So we need to find a good fit there, okay? So if you had done all these things at the beginning, he might have outed himself. He's like, Henry, let me tell you how I like to work with people that I hire. They work for me. I'm the boss, and this is how we do it. You're like, that's fantastic. I'm really, in all fairness, not a good fit for you. And I try to maintain that energy. Now, you mentioned before, there's an Italian, Spanish person in you, right? And those are two like very emotional groups of people. And then I'm like the Asian robot, which is like, no emotion, live long and prosper kind of thing. So I don't have a problem with that. The voices and those things have been dealt with when I was a child, and I just worked through those things. And so now I try to come in as even keeled as possible. Now, once you got that really negative thing where they're just dumping on you, now you have a choice to make. One, you can react. So you can fight fire with fire, which is what ultimately you did. Two, you can take it, which is what you did for round one. Because you knew going in, you felt guilty that this wasn't right. And so if they say something about that, you're very vulnerable to hearing that kind of feedback. Three, you could choose to abort there. So when a client comes at me as hard as the one that you just had described in your situation, I just feel like now it's just too late. Even if I come into a situation knowing that the work is subpar, I still want to be spoken to like a human being. And if I come into it with full transparency, they just want to unload on me, they have other issues that are greater than me. And I know that no matter what I do at this point, the relationship is probably not worth salvaging. That's where we have to cut our losses, okay? I do not want to meet fire with fire because it's unproductive. Calling each other names, dropping F-bombs on each other is not a good thing. Because what we've done is we're trying to be right. We're trying to defend the person. If I know who I am, I don't need to defend anything. I'm not here to prove anything. Right? That makes sense. So what I would say to them is this. It's like, whoa, I understand you're not happy about the work that we did. And to be honest, I think we needed more time on it. But the way that you're reacting right now tells me that there's probably nothing that I can do to salvage this relationship. So I think at this point, I've done good work for here and here. And what I want to do is to propose to you, I will refund the rest of your money and turn over whatever assets that I have and help you find somebody else. I'm not doing this in a bitter, angry way. I'm not just reacting to the situation. I'm trying to find what is the best solution for my client at this point and ask them, will this work for you? And to be open. Now, a lot of us think if the client's paid us some amount of money, we got to fight for that. And we're so angry in the moment, we don't even want to tell them what's going to happen, right? Because it's now all energy, it's all emotion, and we want to shut this relationship down without them knowing. So what is that person walking away with? Okay, so from their point of view, Henry didn't do work that he was proud of. I told him what I thought in the way that I always talk to everybody. Why is he overreacting to this? And now he shut me down. I have a real deadline and he's taken my money. I have no clear path on how I can resolve this problem. He's basically giving me the bird and saying, take a long walk off a short bridge. And now we go to war. And we know it's very easy to run a smear campaign to besmirch your reputation. We know that. Reputations are hard to build and they're easy to destroy. They really are. So you have to kind of weigh that in your mind. Is it worth it? Whatever it is that you want to get off your chest to like, let's go mano a mano, let's do battle. Most of the time, it's not worth it. What we have to do is we have to just do what my therapist tells me to do. Be the bigger person. Take the high road. And that's all you can do. So you can say, look, I want to make sure you feel whole walking away from this relationship. I'll do whatever I can to make sure that this is as smooth of a transition for you as possible. I am truly sorry it did not work out for both of us. I wish you well. Then we just resolve the finances and the files and be done with it. And I don't want you to overcompensate either. If you've done good strategy, but the translation of the strategy is where it fell down, don't feel immediately that you're going to refund them 100% of their money. It's a negotiation just like everything else. You just strip away the emotion and say, look, I feel that this is fair. We've done this, this, and that. Even though we've worked on this and we have a right to bill you for this part, I just think it's not going to end well if we do. So why don't I discount or remove that entire part? And then we square up and I refund you $3,600, whatever it is. And we walk away. Is that something you can live with, John? Yeah, I think I can do that, Henry. And thanks for coming to the table. I didn't know where else to go with this. And if there's anything else I could do for you, recommend other people, point you in the right direction, let me know. Be more than happy to. We screwed up on this thing. I just don't feel like I can regain your trust. And that's an important part of a successful formula at the brand doctor. Then you're done. And you don't spend months repairing your online reputation, dealing with bots and fake accounts. It's very easy for people to say bad things about you online. Very hard for you to correct that. And that is not worth it. Okay? All right. Let's see what kind of comments we have online. Ricky, are you crying on me?
No, I'm good.
Are you good?
Yeah,
your eyes a little glossy right now.
It was, it was a touching story you guys had. So, but we have a question from Luke who asks how to deal with clients who are being the bottleneck but blame you. Okay. Like if they want, you won't make the site live, but they're complaining that it's taking too long.
Okay. Well, like most things, Luke, it's about communication, setting up expectations. So if you want to launch a site, but they can't approve assets, you need to let them know that the schedule in which you've built requires them to approve things within a certain period of time. 24 hours, 48 hours, 3 days, whatever it is that you want. Once you define that up front, you should have less problems. And when it comes up and you start slipping on the schedule, you need to send them a note right away to say, look, I'm not going to be a good project manager if I don't tell you this now, but by delaying getting his feedback or approving these assets, we cannot launch the site. I can't let your indecision affect my time and compressing it on the back end. Some of it I can deal with, but the rest of it means that we're going to miss our deadline. If you're okay with that, I'm okay with it within reason, because we don't want this to last 6 months. I just can't afford to pay everybody to sit around and do nothing. This is about being really clear. A lot of us don't want to have these stressful conversations with clients because it seems confrontational, right? It seems adversarial. And the stress really isn't caused by the conversation. The stress is caused by not having the conversation. Notice in this situation with Henry as I'm talking about stuff, that I want to bring up what I'm thinking. I want to admit where I'm strong and where I'm weak and be okay with that. And by having that kind of conversation, you notice the energy level, it's not going to ever escalate to DEFCON 5. We're not going to drop nuclear bombs on each other's head. And that's the key. All right. Thanks, Luke, for that conversation. If you guys are enjoying this conversation, let us know what you think on YouTube and on Facebook. So, Henry, let's get into this whole thing now. Now your question may or may not have answered itself, where you're saying, I lost a lot of myself. A lot of it was you just rebuilding who you are, and you got some PTSD. You're shell-shocked. You're licking your wounds. You're like most alpha animals. You go into the cave to lick your wounds and die alone. That's what animals do. Like, the old dog literally will walk off and just die in a corner somewhere in the woods. He'll just leave because he doesn't want anybody to see him die. Mm-hmm. Luckily for you, you have a really strong community. You have good clients who respect and like what you've done. And so they were able to build you up. That's good to know that you have friends when you're lost in the world. That's good to know. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think the strongest thing you can do is to start to look inwards. And that's why you and I went through that little bit of exercise to say, for a minute here, let's stop beating ourselves up and be grateful for all the things that we have right in our lives. We spend too much time focusing on the negative things, the things that we don't have, our weaknesses, and not enough time being grateful for the things we already have. So that gratitude exercise of saying what you're grateful, 3 things you're grateful for every single morning, starts to train your mind to look for the positive and to know that, you know what, you're alive. You live in the greatest country in the world. Mm-hmm. Things could be much worse for you. Let's appreciate that and let's build. We have our health, we have our family, and all the things that really matter to us have not been impacted. And we can chalk up this one giant, horrible, nightmarish experience as one of the greatest experiences in your life. Look at this. Let's say they don't blow up on you. You go on for years, you and I don't talk because there's no compelling reason for us to talk. You think everything's great. Then you have a 60-person agency, multi-million-dollar accounts, and then this happens. And instead of it costing you $20,000, it costs you $2 million. Right? So things happen. I don't love to say that things happen for a reason, but what we do is we look at all the things in our lives as learning opportunities. We grow, we learn, so we don't do them again. And that's the critical part. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you want to talk about compressing time. Can you phrase that in a way? So we wrap up that part. So what do you want to know about compressing time?
Well, I guess the point was that the question was like, how do I get back on my feet faster? Right. And I think you answered that question pretty diligently. You got to look inward and you got to ask yourself. I remember on one of our coaching calls, you put me through a little exercise when you said, when somebody comes at you with information, you got to ask yourself, is it true? Is it not true? And I forget what the third one was, I'll be honest with you. But there was a third way to react. Or if it is, then how are we going to make it? How are we going to fix it? How are we going to make it right? Or how are we going to right? And if it isn't true, then you just dispose of it because you said, is it going to help me or hinder me?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that little exercise is just, now I've practiced and I've trained myself. So when I get that feedback, whether it be from a client or my wife or my friends or cousins, it doesn't matter. I ask myself, is it true or is it not true? Is this going to help me or hinder me? And that has helped me tremendously, sort of filter what good is coming in and what bad, the negative that comes at me. And I have to say, since that talk and since this experience, I've even had you, I brought you on one day and I brought you inside of the business and I showed you my workflow and I said, Chris, show me where the kinks are. And you were very articulate with, I would change this. I would change that. I would do this. Why isn't this here? Why isn't it? And you know me by now, done. And so now I have this like machine that's always fine-tuned, always oiled up. And not to say that you may have a kink here and there down the pike again, but I feel like that machine's a hell of a lot more efficient than it was last year. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple things. I mean, there was a bunch of takeaways here. One is you got to be real clear with your qualification process and not be afraid to have those conversations. Now one of the things that I say on my intro consult call or my first time talking to a prospect is, are you certain that you want to move forward? Are you confident in what you're hearing today, that this is going to help you? If they're not, I don't want to work with them. Like I want to work with winners that want to win more. And so there's a certain amount of confidence that comes with that. And there's a lot of 9 times out of 10 when clients come to me, they just want guidance. They want to know where their bottlenecks are so they can streamline and get to where they want to be faster. So, just having those conversations that I was so afraid of have changed the game. I had a consult call yesterday with a client, and the prospect said, I need to make more money in order to afford you. And I said, yeah, I understand that. And I said, let me tell you a quick little story. And I went into how I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together a few years ago. And I took out my credit card and charged 10 grand on it. And I said, it's not if this works, it's when this training works. And it was that mindset shift that I had. And I put down the money. And within 6 weeks, I was able to make that 10K back. And then within 18 months later, there was $500,000 in revenue generated. So I said, I was in your situation before. I know what it feels like. And I could have said to that coach, I gotta do some more work before I could afford you. Or I could have got out of my own way, which I did, and said, let's make this happen. The only way that I'm going to get the results that I want is to do something different and change my routine or get your help, because I'm confident in your ability to help me. And that's what I did. And so, but I'll tell you right now, a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have said, okay, I understand. Well, I'm here if you need me. And, good luck. And I would have got off that call, and I would have done that guy a complete disservice, because I don't want to say let him off the hook, but I mean, the guy was looking for help. That's why we're talking in the first place. And when I did my review of his business prior to the call, the guy's really talented, really talented. If he was like amateur or like just starting out, I would have been maybe a little concerned. We might have had a lot more work to do. But this guy was like super, super talented, and his work was crisp. He just needed that guidance. He needed that little nudge. And that confidence that I have inside of myself now was that ability to nudge him. Whereas, I think a lot of creatives and a lot of designers and a lot of folks that don't have that confidence, they'll let that guy walk or gal walk. And I feel like that's just doing a disservice. And I'm like you, Chris, I'm not a pushy, hardcore closer type of guy either. I'm not. But I will now bring up stories and bring up conversation that will challenge your thinking before I let you go.
All right. I need to jump in here, because you may have said something that seems contradictory, and I want to give you a moment to try to clarify this, okay? As I'm listening to you. At the beginning of this conversation, you're like, you know what? I'm not trying to sell you on anything. And then as a person gets cold feet, you go in for the close. You're selling actually pretty hard at that point. I don't know if you recognize it or not.
I did. I was.
Let me tell you, this is what's happened. What kind of person are you? You a winner or you a loser, right? So let me offer you a point of view on this, right? So you guys, here's the thing. We're just 2 people. We have 2 opinions on things, and you listen to whatever you think is helpful. The thing that Henry was talking about before was having this filter in your brain. That when a piece of information floats out into the world, you have to ask yourself, is this true or is it false? Because if somebody tells you Mars is made from bananas, you don't have to investigate any more to this at all. So this is like saying when somebody gives you an opinion or a suggestion about your business, and you just have to ask yourself, is this even true? Let's say it's true. So it gets to move on to stage 2. And stage 2 says, if it's true, is this going to hurt me or is this going to help me? So if it's true and it doesn't feel comfortable, but we know it's going to help us, we have to kind of keep escalating that. So part of this is just about developing better filters for your brain, because the world is full of noisy little bits trying to tell you one thing or the other. And if you listen to all of it, you'd be spinning around a circle and driving yourself mad. So there's that part. So as I'm listening to you tell this story, when we are working with a prospect, a potential new client, I think my job is just to give them information so they can make an informed decision. It's not to sell. It's not to close. If anything, it's the anti-close. Like, I just assume you don't need me and you don't want to do anything, and that's totally okay, that you can't afford it. So a lot of what I'm looking for is somebody who wants to change. Now, I know we're just talking, like I said, it's very kind of informal conversation, but we have to be careful in the words that we choose. We have to be very intentional because those words code experiences and they tell us what to think about things. Now, you said something, and I know you weren't trying to be mean-spirited about it, but you're like, I want to work with winners who want to win more and win, win, win. Then the opposite is losers, get out of my life, right? So there's a lot of judgment in there. I'm just looking for people who want to change or improve their lives. Because in your language, a loser who's tired of losing is somebody I'd like to work with. Not just winners, because those are like sure bets, right? Like if we draft Cristiano Ronaldo for our team, it's like everybody knows he's good. Who can't win with that? And you have that all-star team. Well, of course you're going to win the Olympics every time because the amount of talent on the shelf is ridiculous. So what I'm really looking for and listening for is if somebody has a problem to solve, if they're motivated enough to want to change, if they have the resources in time and money to make that change happen. Those are the people I want to work with. That's all. Because there are a lot of winners out there who don't want to change either, and that's okay. I'm probably not the right person for you. And that's where a lot of the frustration comes in from creatives, which is they ask me to do all these wonderful things, and then after 6 months of working on it, it's barely different than the way it was before. Well, maybe we have to assess from them early on if they actually want to change. And if we're being honest with each other and they say, you know what, we have to do our due diligence, we have to go through this process, but most likely I'm looking for a little tweak, but we're willing to pay you for 6 months of exploration just so that we can tell our shareholders, the board members, the board of directors that we did our due diligence. And everybody knows going in, that's what's going to happen. So you don't get your hopes up. A lot of this is just about managing expectations, your own. First of all, get your own house in order before you tell other people what to do. And then just helping to manage expectations of the client through clear communication, being unbiased, being very transparent, and knowing that there are many options besides hiring you. And that's it. All right. Let's take another question. Ricky, do you have another question?
Yeah, I do.
They're asking, is there a new guy? Yeah, look at him. Look at him smiling. Yeah, he is the new guy.
Yeah, what's up, guys?
Look at him.
How's it going? Yeah, so the question is, how do you choose good clients, and do you have a system for choosing those good clients? And then one of the follow-ups was, how do you offer strategy and branding services with warm and cold leads? Okay,
let's do one question at a time. My brain only works well with one thing. Excellent. Ricky is cherry picking the same comments and questions I'm seeing, and I'm glad he's doing that, so you're doing a good job there. I'm going to throw this to Henry first. Let's pretend like you and I'm facilitating this, and you represent the voice of, I want to say thousands, but a couple hundred people that are watching right now, okay? So I'm going to ask you, what makes for a good client? When we have clear definitions of what a good client is, we have a much more likely chance of knowing when one walks in the door. What is a good client to you? Let's do like 5 bullet points.
I think one bullet point would be a client that knows what they don't know and understands that. So they don't think that they know it all, and if they don't, and if they do, great. But if not, the willingness to be coachable. I think having a sense of coachability, it would be a characteristic of a great client.
Okay, I'm taking notes. So.
Oh, you want me to keep going?
Yeah. So I want.
Oh, all right. Yeah. So
characteristics,
coachability. I think self-awareness would be a great characteristic to have. Knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, would be another characteristics of a great client. Having some sort of direction, having some sort of homework done up front, could be helpful to us as creatives, sort of having some sort of direction. I think the old love-hate relationship, the old love-hate exercise that I believe, what's his name? Jose used to do a while back.
Yeah. What do you love? What do you hate?
Yeah. Being really clear on that would be helpful. And I think the other thing is really having a clear understanding of what it is that you want out of the project. So one of the things I ask my clients a lot is, what are the 3 most important things in your business? And that gives me a really good understanding of what's important to them. And that allows me to position myself to help them achieve that more. So those are a few that I would suggest.
Okay.
Or that
I'm going to read back to you. And Erica, let's take a look at this. Characteristics of good client. Self-awareness, coachability, having clear direction and goals. I guess that's really, when you mean direction and versus goals, what do you mean direction? Are those different things or are they the same thing?
Yeah, so I looked at it from from a design standpoint. Like if somebody's coming to a designer and is looking to get a logo done or get a website done or any sort of identity done, like having an idea of what you want, like having a design direction of some sort, right? I like this color scheme. I like this look. I like this feel, right? I like this look. It could be real high level, but having some sort of idea of that. Goal is like, what do you want it to do for me?
Okay. Okay, so direction is really about taste, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And then goals is what the objective is. Okay, so I really have only 4. Is there one you want to add in there? So self-awareness, coachability, direction in terms of taste, and then goals. Is there a 5th one?
Yeah,
Those are good?
No, I would say one more is just be like friendly. Just be a nice person.
Okay.
I guess the other one is don't take it so serious. Is I think a lot of people get tied up in the seriousness of it, and they forget that this is fun. Like this should be fun for you as the business owner or the person asking for the work to be rendered. And it should be fun for the designer to actually take on a project that's going to like get those juices flowing.
So here's the new list. It's been freshly recompiled. And I also want to give our audience, who at times are very smart, to type in a characteristic, just one characteristic of what they think makes for a good client. And then Ricky will scan those and he'll tell me what the best ones are. I wrote my own list, by the way. So this is very important. It's interesting. So I don't think about these things all the time. So when somebody asks me a question like this, I have to pause and just define it. And this is good. This is why I love to have conversation with people, because when you ask a question that I just assume everybody knows, I had to sit there and think about it and make sure it's true in my own mind. So here we go. Here's the top 5 list. 1, self-awareness. 2, coachability. 3, direction, taste level. 4, goals, what do they want to accomplish? And 5, friendly, that they're not too serious. Okay, so those are Henry's list. What is your list? So let me go and check the comments and see what happens here. All right, so those will come streaming in. I just need to switch my thing here. All right, let's see what they say. Oops, where is it? Where's your comments?
I think that last one, Chris, we can add like our values.
What are you talking about? No, what do you want to say? Go ahead.
I want to say that your values have to align with that person. So what you believe in, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Right? The values need to align. That's going to make for.
Yeah. Okay. Are we seeing anything good yet? So I wrote down some things. Now notice you didn't talk about money. To me, a good client has to be able to afford us. Otherwise, there's a part of that. Because you can have all those things. You've got $2 that just can't work with you because it's. I know a lot of people have a bad reaction when I say this, but I'm going to say it, okay? Is that I have to choose who I can help. And I'm not Mother Teresa. I'm not trying to run a charity organization. I'm not a philanthropist and that I just want to give stuff away all the time. And I know that I have a finite amount of time. And as I get older, I have to realize that by helping somebody, I'm giving my time, and that time comes from some other place. And I'm not trying to say this in a selfish way, but I have to be aware. So sometimes it's going to come from sleep, which I can sacrifice some. Some will come from the costs, unfortunately, of my family's time with my wife. Like we can't go on a date night. We can't hike together because I'm too tired. Some of it will come from at the cost of spending time with my children, that I can't draw with them, or we can't read a book, or we can't do stupid, silly things that father and kids do. Some of it will come from my ability to exercise and keep my body fit. So I have to be careful here. So then I also know that by choosing clients who can't afford us, I'm also going to negatively impact the lives of the people who work for me, because when times get tough, we have to lay off people. We have to cut salaries. I can't give bonuses during the holidays. I can't afford things that would make their life at the office here better. So just like when we're talking about information that enters your brain, you have to have filters. I also have to have filters, as should you, as to who you want to work with. And I've said this before. Sometimes, if the clients don't meet the criteria of what you think a good client is, you are better off doing nothing. Because the one thing I didn't mention too was working on my mind. That by doing client work that I don't like, or that doesn't pay me enough of what I think in terms of what I need to make, I can't spend time reading. I can't watch videos. I can't better myself. I can't write. I can't produce content. So everything comes at a cost of something else, right? There's always give and take, especially when it comes to time, because time is finite. It's not really elastic where you can make an extra hour in a day. So that's the thing. So one thing that I want to work with in terms of clients is people who really value their time. People who have too much free time are problematic clients for us. And I'll tell you why. When they don't value their time, they're bored, and they're looking to do something with you. And so a call that should take 10 minutes will last 2 hours. A simple review turns into a lengthy discussion. It gets existential. They start throwing references. Oh yeah, by the way, I looked at these other sites. I want to share this typeface with you. I don't want to work with that person, because that
call
person,
them time vampires.
Yeah. Well, that person doesn't place a premium on their own time. Guess where you rank on that scale? So if they think their time is not worth a lot, your time is worth nothing. And so they'll drag the engagement out forever. And I'll tell you a very clear example of who doesn't value their time. Somebody who'll drive across town to go to Costco, to wait in line, to buy the bulk version of something, to save themselves 35 cents. That person is clearly not in command of what their time is worth. And we know people like that. I probably at one point in my life was like that as well. Then I realized this is silly. Okay? So that's one of the traits I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who are risk tolerant, who are willing to make a bold and big decision and make a calculated risk, that they're not always looking for the most conservative, the safest path forward. Because I'm not that guy. And I even tell clients that up front. If you're looking for the safe choice, we are not the safe choice. What the safe choice gets you is predictable results, Me Too results. And if that's what you want, I'm not your guy. This is not the firm for you. And for sure, it's important for us to share common values and beliefs. I don't want to work with people who want to destroy the world, who are only in it for themselves, because then I'm furthering their mission, allowing them to continue to think this way. Now, I want to say that's a luxury of a person who has the ability to make choices, and sometimes some people can't make those choices, and I'm not judging you. You got to do what you got to do, okay? So those are 3 things that I'm looking for. Let's see what else the internet says. Ricky, is there anything good from that list?
Yeah, so a lot of people are saying empathy, shared values, honesty, trust, but the one I see most is communication.
Yeah.
You want clients who are good communicators? Is that what they're saying, the internet?
Yeah. That's the overwhelming. They wish to have better communication with both sides of it.
Now, I don't know. It could be that the air conditioning is not working, the temperature is rising inside of me, and I want to smash that one down right now. So far, I put on my really just chill voice, right? Like we've been chill thus far. It's about to go thermonuclear on you guys right now. I think you are absconding from your responsibilities as a vendor. To wish that your client were better communicators says that I'm not going to develop the skills to be a better communicator.
I was going to say, keep wishing on that.
Keep wishing on that, because that's not going to happen.
No.
And it's going to thoroughly limit the kinds of people that you're going to work with. You should aspire to be the better communicator, to help them bring
Well,
out.
that's why they're hiring you.
Well, I think so. In every relationship, think about this. I don't know that much about cars. Imagine if I had to go to an auto mechanic and tell them precisely what was wrong. Well, the other day, the spark plugs misfired, and I think the timing belt is off, and I can hear this and diagnose that. And by the way, the electronics in this is not working properly. That should probably cost $2,400, right? Is that what we're really asking clients to do? To be that kind of communicator? Let's run that scenario again. Walk into a doctor's office. Yep. I think my liver's off, my purine level and my blood supply is off, and this is what's happening, doc. So give me 2 of those pills and cut that part out. Is that what we're looking for? That's unrealistic, don't you think? So when a client comes to you, they probably don't know what it is that they need to know, and that's okay. They just have to be open enough to have a conversation with you and to be smart enough to recognize, yeah, that sounds true. So you, as the expert, should ask them a series of diagnostic questions. What do you need? Oh, I need a logo. Why do you think you need a logo? Well, our business is slowing down. Do you think if you changed the logo, the business would improve? Yes. So if we were to go and sit in your restaurant today and ask 100 of the patrons that come there, if we change the logo, would that stop them from coming? Well, what do you think they would say? Well, I guess they wouldn't say that. What do you think the problem is really then? What do people complain about? I don't know. That's why I'm here, right? Yeah, okay. Well, then what do you think? What business is succeeding where you're failing? Oh, okay, let me tell you about Johnny's restaurant. What do you think is going right with them? Do you think it's the logo that's getting them their business? Oh, no, I don't think so. This is what I mean by beginning to take that journey towards being a strategist or a consultant, or just being a better listener to problems. Not to assume that everything that comes out of the client's mouth is true. Not to wish for them to come in and know all these answers ahead of time. Actually, the more that I'm able to reveal to a client that they don't know, the more valuable I become.
And that's something that you helped me with tremendously over this year, is getting better questions asked. And that I've had numerous clients come to me after they onboard and say, those lines of questions that you delivered to me were outstanding. And it made me think outside of what I was typically thinking of. And that's why I came on board with you. So I can't thank you enough for that, Chris. The one thing, since we're on this whole communication topic real quick, I want to go back to the thing that you called me out on, which is good. I'm glad that you did, because I didn't even realize it, right? Because I'm an East Coast guy. And when I made the comment, I just want to work with winners that want to win more, you made me realize that you just put a whole bunch of probably really awesome people like over there, right? That probably need help, right? So my question is, how does one see a judgmental comment like that prior to making it?
What do you mean? How do I see a judgmental comment prior to making it?
Because what you said to me was, that's a pretty judgmental comment you made there.
Yeah.
So I don't want to make judgmental comments anymore, right? Because when you flipped it, right? I said,
right.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say, but this is how I said it, you know? And so give me a piece, give me a little nug that will help me like chill with the judgment. Because this is not the first time that you called me out on this, by the way.
Right.
So I think I need a little help there.
Right. So you're not exactly like a young boy. So we have years, a couple of decades of life experiences that have formed you into the human being that you are. So I want to say this. It's going to take time to change habits and routines. The fact that you're aware of it and that you want to improve, and now that you're looking for tools to improve, is already sending you off in the right direction. I was not born to be an extroverted person to speak into camera like the way that I'm doing right now. For most of my life, I ran from these kinds of opportunities. The book report in junior high scared me to death. It wasn't junior high, it was grade school. Getting in front of people, running for any kind of student government body thing, that would scare me, and I would never volunteer for that. Any kind of thing where I have to stand on stage, sing, perform, a spelling bee, I ran away from. But these are things that we work on and we get better day by day. So the first thing I want to say to you is congratulations that this is what you want to accomplish. And that to be a little easier on the little Henry inside of you, that when you have a misstep, not to like pounce on you like, you stupid, you're supposed to be better than this at this point in time. To give yourself some latitude to say like, yep, okay, do better, Henry, but we're okay. We're making progress every single day. As long as we keep stepping forward, we're not going to move backwards. So I just want to say that first. Okay? So if you look at yourself as a person who can help people, as you've said very clearly, and I believe in that if people do not hire you, you cannot help them. And it's a tragedy because you really do honestly believe in the power of the things that you can do. So maybe you can look at yourself more as a healer, as a helper. And a healer and helper would not say the kinds of things that we're talking about right now. That we would not judge people in that way. And this is going to sound very contradicting from people, from coming from my mouth, where people are like, dude, you're the most judgmental guy I know. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that, okay? There are different ways in which I operate. I'm a multifaceted, multidimensional human being just like all of you. So there are different faces that you're going to see, okay? So when I'm talking to a client or I'm talking to you in many of our coaching sessions together, I got to try to say like, all right, I want to help you. Sometimes I need to be very straight and direct with you, but I don't want to say it in a judgmental way. I also want to say to you that whatever it is I'm trying to do has to come through from the point of view of being helpful and from a place of love and respect. If we have that for each other, then all things are possible. Right? So this whole, when you say losers and winners, that puts people into very clear categories that is awfully judgmental or judging. So what we want to do is we want to start to strip away that language. Now, I don't know what your childhood was like, but maybe you grew up in a rough area where there are boys who like, you know, fought you, picked on you and all these kinds of things. And you have to be a tough guy to survive wherever you came from. And a lot of people can identify with that. So then we walk around with this suit of armor, holding people away from our heart, and we gloss over all the things that make us human, and we pretend that we have no weaknesses. Now, those people are not enjoyable to be around. We know who those people are. So in my world and growing up, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't become one of those people because I hated them. That's really important. And I do believe in this, that my worldview is that everybody has a right to believe what they want to believe and think what they want to think. And I don't have any connection to a higher power or divinity that says my opinion is stronger, better, more correct than yours. So it's okay for us to have differing points of view. And I actually am very stimulated when I have conversations with people who've really thought about what they think about, who've done the research and the reading and have a formed point of view, so I can learn from them too. It's not to say I'm looking to be convinced or persuaded, but I just want to learn a new perspective. So I remember, because we grew up kind of poor, that when we would walk through the drugstore and see that aisle with the Crayola crowns and the 128 colors, like I had 16 at home. I always wanted a broader color palette, right? Like, not that I needed that shade of pink. I don't know why. I just desired to have more crowns because the idea was I could do more with it. So in this way, having a variety of opinions and ideas in my head actually give me a wider palette. So I want to also keep an open mind. So when I'm talking to people like you or people on the internet, it's like, that's an interesting point of view. I've never thought of that before. Let me process that. Okay? So I think that's all it is. It's like we want to be somebody who's helpful, who's a healer, who's going to act in the best interests of the people we serve. So when you're a father, be a great father. When you're a husband, be a great husband. And when you're a consultant or a vendor for a client, be the best person that you can be in service of them. And I have to say this, to be in service of somebody else means that sometimes you have to make a decision that is against your own best interests. What I mean when I say that, sometimes I have to recommend the client work with somebody else other than us. because the other person is all they need and they would be overpaying for us. So then I would say, to get me involved in this engagement, you're going to have to spend at least $50,000. I'm not saying this is a $50,000 assignment, but for me to do it, that's what you're going to have to pay. You can hire a lot of people out there. I'll give you some names after this and some resources, and you could probably get it done for a lot less. Now, what does that how does this help this person? Well, they're like, wow, this person is really going to be that honest and help me. And in this moment in time, I don't have the money, so I'm going to work with somebody else. But I remember this person was so forthright and so helpful to me. So I'm always playing the long game. Yeah. I don't need to.
I'm sorry to cut. I didn't mean to cut you off. But right. This is where I got to insert this because it's perfect. Mm-hmm. I just recently became very, very aware of the after effects of my conversations with people and clients. And prospects for that matter. So what I'm being hyper focused on lately is the words that I use, and I'm trying to get more articulate and a little bit less Jersey.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But I realized that like when we part from that call, mm-hmm. right, they're going to go back and throughout that day, because it happens to me. I have conversations with people. Like I had a meeting this morning, and some of the things that the guy was saying in my head have been repeating in my head all day. And the words that he used and how he articulated it, that is spinning in my head all day. And I'm like, the same thing happens because I talk to a lot of people throughout the week. Same thing happens in their minds. So make sure, and this is a nice little lesson in branding. Make sure that the words that you're using are leaving the accurate intentions that you want to leave on those folks, those impressions that you want to leave on those folks. So I think that's what you're saying. And I feel like that it's so important because before I would just spew out of the mouth and I would get off the call. And then I would be thinking back to that call saying, if that guy ever said that to me, I would never talk to him again.
Right.
So I want the audience to be aware of that.
Yeah. You just made me think of something right now. Okay, I don't know if you can tell, but when you speak with a certain amount of passion and a volume and a tone that just feels like you're on fire all the time. Good and bad. It's like, I love you, man. And I would feel that, or you freaking pissed me off. I would feel that too. What we want to do is we want to be able to play different actors on this stage, so-called life, right? All the world's a stage. So there are times when you're going to want to be that super passionate guy and you're like, I love the decision you just made. You rock, brother. And you like high five him in the Hulk Hogan voice, right? And you do that.
Do I really sound like Hulk Hogan?
No. I was just like, I accidentally sounded like Hulk Hogan, right? Eat my vitamins and say my prayers, brother. That's what you do. But the other part to it is maybe that you need different crowns in the Henry Kaminski box. Right? There's going to be that quiet, contemplative person who's very understanding, empathetic. Imagine if you were talking to a friend who's female, who's going through some really tough times. You're not going to come at that conversation full Henry. You're going to dial something else. So it's that spectrum of different Henrys that you can present makes you perceive differently. It's like that actor that we love, but they can only seemingly be one character. And we wonder, like, can they be other people? And those are the greats, where they're a chameleon. Like I love Benedict Cumberbatch. He's an incredible actor. And Daniel Day-Lewis, they lose themselves in the character. And they're wonderful. So that's where you need to be. And I think the other way to look at this, and without sounding too spiritual, woo-woo, hippy-dippy on you guys, I'm going to say this. I think in a conversation with somebody, we need to be more aware of energy. And I've said this in a different video recently about controlling energy and managing that and moving that energy around, right? So when you come at me, Henry, and I feel like you're going to beat yourself up, I have to come back at you, not with, like, I'm going to beat you up now. I'm going to come back with you like with some healing energy. And when you're fiery, I'm going to temper that fire. And when you're like just really like boring and you're not bringing a lot of energy, I'm going to pump you up a little bit like, you can do this. So I'm trying to bring you to the center. Wow. If you can think of yourself like that, this is like a very Bruce Lee kind of martial arts kind of thing, but we want to be centered and we want to help direct and control energy as much as possible. Then we're going to walk the way of the warrior. No, I'm just kidding about that part. Like some graphics come into the screen. Right? Okay, so there's that part of it. All right. Now, I do want to say this because people are going to watch this and see 400 episodes where I rip people apart and I'm tearing my crew and team apart. Like, what the? It's different. That's my boss energy. This is my consultant energy. And I've got lots of different faces. And sometimes when I'm on stage, I bring a different kind of energy and we try to make fun of people. We have laughs together, and people who have witnessed the workshops that we do, I try to make it really fun. But I do know this. If I came across as this super cerebral person who's very pedantic about my advice, you guys would tune out like that. Mm-hmm. Many of you guys watching this will know the big personalities in the world. If you ever watch reality TV, who gets the most camera time? The drama queens, the people who look at the world very emphatically. They're not very wishy-washy. So the person that I present to you that you're looking at, YouTubers, is one that is designed to try to keep you entertained and to keep you engaged. So all I said was, this work is great. You're amazing, super solid. Oh yeah, so what? Whatever. Who's going to tune into that? Like, we don't want to watch food critics talk about everything like it's all great.
Like, it's awesome, yeah.
You have to dial in. You have to say, this is wonderful, or that tasted like rubber. Throw that garbage away. You want a point of view, and I'm going to help you with that. So you guys need to realize we're multidimensional human beings, and to recognize that I'm more self-aware than you might think, that what I'm doing isn't so much acting, but showing you different flavors of who I am and what is called for in the situation. So if you want the guy who's going to kick your butt for a student crit, that the guy is coming out. Right now, I'm not critiquing you. I'm here to help. All right.
Awesome.
All right. You know what it is? We want to have one last question. Henry, you want to close the show with a super question, or we can turn it to Ricky to ask that final question because there was more than one question that he asked. What do you want to do?
Question to ask you or the community?
Oh, you can ask whatever you want.
Oh, my God.
Or not. Somebody wrote something funny here. Ulrich wrote 50 shades of dough or 50 colors of dough. I like that. I like that. I'm going to do my best. I like that.
I got one. What's one habit that you have, Chris, that helps you maintain that inner flame or that inner confidence in you?
You calling me gay, dude?
Huh?
You calling me gay? My inner flame? Come on, dude.
Inner
What are you talking about?
that you have an inner flame in you that keeps you fired up. So I want to know, what's that habit? Now I'm just digging.
They're all like, they're dying in the other room right now.
I should just let that one go.
The show just derailed. So let me talk to you about my inner flame, okay?
Great.
No. What drives me?
Yeah. What's that one thing that you do that's habitual that maintains that confidence level inside of you?
Yeah, okay. I'm seeing censored comments already coming in. I opened up a can of worms. I'm so sorry. But I could say that I'm going to give you half the credit on that. I like to share credit where it's due. You gave me the alley-oop on that, and I put the ball in the bucket on that flame comment. Okay. I do want to say this. I'm not a young man anymore. And how do I know this? Because a lot of my friends have cancer and they're dying, and it's super tragic and sad. And I know it's like, there's that expression that's saying, it's like when you're young, you go to more weddings. And when you're older, you go to more funerals. And sadly, that's happening, right? But the thing that keeps me driven to keep me motivated is a couple different things. I'm around young people, and young people have a certain energy. They have a certain enthusiasm for life. They're not jaded and cynical about everything. And that's kind of nice to have. When you're around old people, it's like, that's been done. That'll never work. That's my penguin impression there. That'll never work. It's like, well, I don't know. They said that about a lot of things, and things are working right now. So if you're around people who have that same exuberance for life and all things are possible, like my children, they remind me that the world is full of possibilities. That's one. Two, I think as human beings, we just want to grow. We want to continue to develop. So we want to learn. We want to experience new things, new food, new places, new spaces, new ideas, new experiences. That's what we crave. And so if you design your life as if you designed a logo. If you design your life to maximize on those moments, you're going to be happy, you're going to be fulfilled, and you're never going to wake up wondering, what do I do next? Because there's a countless list of things for me to do, and I'm super excited about that. So I love to learn. That curious spirit to learn, to grow, to develop, that's in me. So every time I get asked to do something, like I was invited to MC an event, I was like, oh shoot, I know I do my show, but to MC an event? Let's do it. It's scary, but let's do it because it's going to help me grow. And even if I'm horrible, I'll have learned something from the experience. And that's the kind of filter I look at most things. If I decide to do something, it's like, will I learn something from this? So repetition kills my brain.
Okay.
Doing something over and over. And lastly, if you do something that is bigger than you, you're going to feel it. So you described to me something. I feel the conviction in the way that you said it, that I work with clients. This is your voice. I work with clients because I want to help them. And I can't help you if you don't hire me. Right? So you work with a lot of experts, coaches.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of good energy and idea to help the world. But if the world can't find out about them, if they can't create a sustainable business to create a good content and marketing strategy with a good click funnel, they can't help people either. So in a way, you're helping the helpers.
Yeah.
And that's what you do. So if you have a mission, if you want to make an impact on the world, that will pretty much fuel you. And I'm on a mission right now. I'm on a mission to change education from top to bottom, bottom to top, and we're going to break it. And we want to help people who are in the creative space do like what they say in the Game of Thrones. We want to kill the masters. We want to break the system because too many of us are trained to think to work for other people, to look for clients to tell us what's right or wrong. And we offer up all these wonderful ideas to the clients so that they can grow their business, but yet we never turn it inward and say, should I be building my own business? Should I be working on that? There's never been a better time. So there's a lot of ideas and things that I want to accomplish before I'm 6 feet under, and that's what fuels me.
Okay, so that's what fuels you. But what's one habit that keeps you confident? Because you walk around with a lot of confidence.
Okay. I don't think I need to have a daily habit to keep myself confident. And the reason why is because I found who it is I'm supposed to be. I found my internal voice. I found my peace, I'm there. I'm good with who I am. So even though we get into disagreements online and some of the haters and the trolls come out, like I enjoy it. It's kind of fun sometimes, And I don't let that rock me off my boat. And every single day, I do what I tell you to do, which is I appreciate the life that I have, that I'm healthy, that I'm surrounded by loved ones, and I'm not for wanting things. Like whatever it is I want in my life, it's already there. So that's pretty fulfilling. And I know that I put the work in every single day to improve who I am. If I need to, I read business books, philosophy books. I read and I learn and I grow and I study things. I study people. I watch other people's videos. I try to understand what makes them tick. And luckily for me, I built a business around when I learn, you guys learn. That's pretty wonderful, right? So most people, they're in a space where they learn things and they can't share it in any which way that has value to other people. So I like to refer to them as information hoarders. And you guys have heard me share this piece of information before, that wealth is your ability to convert your knowledge and experience into capital and equity. So if you're like gathering experiences in your life, it's like you're that squirrel who's like got 10,000 nuts and you can't eat all those nuts in your whole lifetime. You've not done anything. So for me, and I joke about this sometimes, but it's totally true. I meet other conference speakers when I'm around and they'll ask me like, oh, that was a great talk. I said, yeah, I recommended the books and I learned it on the flight over here while preparing for this talk. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I needed to bone up on this subject because I don't want to speak out of my butt. So I grabbed the book off my shelf that it's been waiting to be read because I know it pertains to what I'm about to say. I want to read it. I'm combing through it and I'm going to highlight the best parts. So one of the things that I think where we create value for our clients and for our community is I save you time. I've read the books, I've processed it, I've learned it, I've practiced it, I've refined it, and then I give it back to you. Now, recently in our last stream, when we did the Young Guns quiz show on the Win Without Pitching Manifesto, many people commented, And you guys should all watch that video right now. Watch that video. There's a link somewhere, whatever. And take the quiz. And so many people had said, I scored really well. I never even read the book. And then they say thank you. Because that means I'm doing a good job of teaching and sharing the things that I know. And I think that's going to be it. We're going to wrap up the show. Okay?
Awesome.
So somebody's asking, Salian Hernandez is asking, so do I do private business consultations? I guess you must just be tuning into that frequency that we're throwing out. Yes, I do. I do coach quite a few people, and there's a number of ways for you guys to get in touch with me. The easiest is to join the pro group. It does cost money. It costs $150 a month, and there's almost 200 people in that. We do group coaching. I do a weekly call that lasts anywhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours. And there are exclusive content, videos, things that we do not share with anybody else that's inside that group. That's one way that you can learn from me and the community that we've built. And there's some wonderful people inside that group who will do just about anything to help you. And I'm not talking about people who are paid to do that, just the community. Super strong. The other way that you guys can work with me is you can do what Henry and I do, and we're probably on our 11th or 12th call together, is you just book me through the site. If you guys go to thefutur.com and look at resources, I'm there somewhere. It's not cheap, I'm going to warn you. The other way that you can come in contact with me outside of what we do on YouTube here is you can go to one of our events and seminars. We're going to produce more workshops here. So if you're in Los Angeles, you can come and you can spend time with us. But I'm also coming out to you. I'm going to be in Bend. I'm going to be speaking at the pot stock photography conference. There's just all kinds of things that I'll be out there into the real world. I'll be in Brisbane next year if all works out. So I'm coming to you. I just came back from Taiwan. I did 2 workshops there. We were in Yosemite. I was in San Francisco. So just look out for me. And if you can't afford to go to one of these lectures, seminars, and workshops, that's totally okay. Because oftentimes I will tweet out, I'm going to do a meetup at the hotel I'm staying at. It's not about the money, right? So if you guys pay attention to me on Twitter, most likely on Instagram, I sometimes forget to post on Instagram, I will announce where I'm at. So some of you guys only know of us through this channel. The best thing that you can do is connect with us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. I'm at the Chris Do. That's it. I think that's it. There's people from Trinidad, people from Europe. We've done the European tour. We're coming back. For sure we're coming back. And we really enjoy seeing and meeting people and hearing about your problems, different cultures and things like that. I'm going to do a quick wrap up and then we're going to get out of here. Okay. So I'm going to do your points and I'm going to add my points. Okay. So here's Henry's list of good client characteristics. Not right or wrong, just 2 people with opinions. Okay. So you take what you want to get from it. First one is self-awareness, coachability, a good taste level, to know what they want in life. And that's very important. And to be friendly, not too serious. My list is that they value their time, that they're entrepreneurial in their spirit, that they know they need to spend money to make money. And entrepreneurs, almost by nature, are risk tolerant, and I like that. I like to work with those kind of people. They have common values and beliefs, things that we believe in, and that they're transparent. They tell you what they think, and there's not a lot of ego. If we don't have a lot of ego, I think a lot of good work can be done. And that's it. On behalf of the entire team, Erica, Mark, and Ricky, Mickey, and Mike, thanks, guys, for tuning in. You are not defined by your past. The future is what you make it. See you guys next time. Where's my music?